Welcome to episode number 56 of the Awake with Jake show. Today, we are talking about 9 ways how to change your life. And this was an Instagram post that I put up, and I just really sat with these and thought with these and felt into these things that I've learned throughout my years of development. And sometimes it wasn't always easy. Sometimes it wasn't always pretty, but I've learned that these 9 things I always kind of stayed true to, and I picked them up as I developed, as I grew as an individual. And I think that's what we're all doing. We're all gaining awareness of things in our life that can help us to live more free and more fulfilling. So let's get right into it. Number 1, become aware of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. I truly believe that the more awareness that we have in life, the greater we live, the happier we are, the more free we are, okay? And why do I say this? Because with awareness, pain doesn't really stay around that long, okay? So if you're aware, intuitively aware that maybe the relationship you're in is not that great for you, it's kind of like you're just settling, there's a good chance that you're going to start to question and challenge that relationship. If you're at a job that doesn't serve your highest good and isn't bringing your gifts fully into the world, there's a good chance that with that awareness, that you know you deserve more, that you probably won't be at that job for too much longer. That's what happened with me. I was at this dream job making great money and I had everything I wanted at this job, but something was missing in that job. It was because I wasn't aligned with my soul's purpose, my soul's calling, right? Which was, to me, anchored in helping people at a deep emotional level to break through mental barriers and gain clarity on what they want in life, right? And when I anchored into that, so much started unfolding into my life. I've been in relationships before where it was a good relationship, but something was missing. And I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it in my heart. And I could always kind of in the back of my mind and intuitively know that with this awareness that I didn't know if this relationship was going to make it. And eventually something would happen and the relationship would end. And that's how it kind of worked. And that's kind of how it's always been in my life was I keep developing awareness. And I can remember that intuitively I started developing awareness at a young age because I would see the anger in my dad's eyes before he would, try to assault me or hurt me or whatever. And I would intuitively know that he was about to harm me. So I developed a sense of awareness that I got to get out of here because this isn't safe. Same thing with my sister and her drug addiction. I would know when Jocelyn was high on crack or heroin or whatever because I could see it in her eyes. And I started this feeling. I could feel her energy shift. And this was at 14 years old, right? I started developing this level of awareness at 14 years old, okay? So I believe that when we cultivate body awareness and conscious dialogue, conscious language, the words we're saying, with more awareness, the greater we will live. Listening and trusting our gut intuition, right? Number 2, develop a beginner's mind where you always remain curious and you keep learning. Okay. In Zen Buddhism, they have this theory called the beginner's mind, and they refer it to having a empty rice bowl. Because if the bowl is full of rice, there's no new rice that can come into the bowl. So it's important to always remain empty like that bowl of rice. Because when we're empty and we empty out our mind and we let go of everything we think we know, so much can come into our life. I was on a client call earlier today, and I said to him, are you ready for me to help you? Because you're going to have to let go of some of what you think you know, right? Because when our mind is full, it can't receive anything new. And oftentimes we think we know everything, right? That's our ego talking. That's the ego banter. We know this, we got it, whatever. And it's very hard because we never really learn. We never really grow because we already know so much. So remain curious, just like a little child does. A little child is always curious about life. And it's so beautiful because a child always is asking questions. Well, what does that do? And what's this taste like? And what's that feel like? Why do we stop that childlike beginner's mind, right? Don't do that. Don't allow your ego to think that you know everything and you can't learn anything new, because When you're always curious about life, life is always beautiful. Life is always fun. So remain curious. Number 3, be conscious of the food that you eat. Imagine this. Imagine if you're fully conscious and fully aware, knowing that every single thing that you put in your body carries with it a vibration, okay? So, and this even includes the lotions that you put on your skin, the toothpaste that you use, the products that you use for your hair, whatever. Know the ingredients in the foods that you consume. And this is why I personally choose to eat a whole food plant-based diet, because I know exactly where it comes from, right? And to me, that feels right for my body. So know where your food comes from. Know what's gone into your food. Know the energy that your food is giving you, okay? So if you're eating things that are dead, they probably won't give you the most amount of energy compared to something that is living. And I love this story that I went to my friend's house one time. He's like, yeah, just eat whatever is in the cabinets. I'm like, okay. So I went in there and I was starving. And I looked in his refrigerator, I looked in his cabinets, and all I could find was processed packaged things that most of them were made with high fructose corn syrup and other kinds of chemicals. I'm like, I can't eat this stuff. My body's going to reject it, right? But once again, when I was 80 pounds heavier, drinking all the time, I didn't care what I put in my body. I didn't give a shit what I put in my body, right? So we have to develop a certain level of awareness of the foods we're eating, because those toxins are clogging our mind, our brain. Those toxins are hurting our temple, our vessel, okay? So if you don't have a detoxified physical body, how do you expect to become spiritually enlightened, right? Why do you think the Buddhist monks and all these other people, they eat a karma-free diet with lots of plant foods, right? We have to think about how the foods we're putting in our body carry with it an energetic vibration. So if the vibration of the foods that you're eating was fearful, say if you eat an animal that was slaughtered and you're consuming that vibration of that food, you have to think about that. And these are things that I started learning about when I was like, man, that makes so much sense. So be conscious of the foods that you're putting in your body, in your mouth. Number 4, release suppressed emotions. What is a suppressed emotion? Suppressed emotion is something that gets stored within you that you've basically stored away unknowingly, unconsciously, to not deal with the pain, right? So unless you grew up in a fully conscious household, there's a good chance that you have some kind of wounding or pain that you maybe have stored away unless you haven't released it, right? So look into your childhood and really ask yourself, what in my life haven't I dealt with? Mine was the relationship with my father. My relationship with my sister. There was a lot of pain there around that. So I had to really learn how to release those suppressed emotions. And I will tell you that as a man specifically, we're taught that crying is a bad thing. And I think humans in general are taught that crying means weakness. Crying means showing an emotion and you could get hurt because you're being vulnerable. That is not true. Okay? Crying is a beautiful form of release, and there's many ways to release. You can cry, you can dance, you can scream, you can do mantra, you can breathe, and oftentimes it comes out as tears because that pain is leaving the body. But every time you do it, every time you release a suppressed emotion, it gets a little bit lighter. It's like peeling back the layers to an onion, and that is beautiful. And if you can identify your own pains and your own blocks, then work with somebody that can help you to do that. That's exactly what I do for my clients. I help them to identify their blocks and remove them. So find someone that you align with, work with them on healing this part of yourself so you can start to lighten up and not feel so heavy all the time, because life is not meant to be so heavy and burdened all the time. Let go of those things that you're holding on to. And I tell you, when you release through forgiveness, through crying, whatever you're doing, things starting to lighten up for you in your life. And it's like cutting the chains that you've been shackled by with these weights dragging behind you. Number 5 is learn to trust your intuition. This is something that I continue to cultivate, okay? And each time you honor that gut feeling that you get, it gets stronger. It's like if you had a sword, you're just sharpening that intuition. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe when you're in a room and somebody else comes into the room, energetically, your energy is like pushing that person away. Maybe you feel really anxious around that person. That is your intuition trying to speak to you, okay? If you're not listening to that intuition, it's never going to grow. It's never going to become stronger. You are giving this intuition for a reason. Most people ignore it. Most people are numb to it through toxins, through alcohol, through neglecting it, and everything else. So stop numbing yourself and avoiding your intuition, avoiding what you feel is right in your heart. And that's why when someone asks me a question, I always reflect back to them, well, what do you feel about this? Because ultimately, your intuition really does know. And sometimes you feel like you don't know and you're just blocked and you need some clarity around it. But ultimately, when you come to a realization, it's because something that your intuition has already told you, right? So the more you sharpen that intuition, the better it becomes. So trust your intuition. Number 6, meditate. Meditate, yes. How simple is that? Sit down in a quiet space for 15 to 20 minutes a day and meditate. Meditation is not about shutting your mind off. And I think that so many people have this block around meditation being, I need to sit there and not think for 20 minutes. No, it's about cultivating self-awareness. It's about seeing where your mind is trapped. Okay? A great meditation that you can do is just follow your breath. For 15 minutes, sit down in a dark space, maybe with some soft music, and follow your breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Now, as soon as you start to do this for a few minutes, maybe even at most, what's going to happen is your mind's going to start thinking of all the things that you need to do. That's when you get to sit there and meditate even longer. All right. So the Zen Buddhists say, if you don't have 20 minutes a day to meditate, then meditate for an hour. All right. So don't tell yourself that you don't have the time or you can't sit there and do it, because you do. You just are making excuses for why you can't sit down and cultivate a meditation. All right. And to me, meditation is an all-day practice, an all-day mindfulness. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, you don't flip out on that person and want to freaking run them off the road. All right. So that's what meditation really is. And that's when it's at the most finest, beautiful work. Number 7, practice conscious breathing. What does that mean? You're like, well, I'm breathing right now. But are you breathing consciously? Not from your chest, from your belly. The richest blood flow is found in your lower diaphragm. The lungs are one of the first organs that start to shut down when you experience pain or trauma or stress or anxiety, whatever. So we stop breathing. We cut off our oxygen supply. Your breath is tied to your emotions. So before you react, before you get upset, breathe. So, for example, if somebody triggers you and you feel upset, take 3 deep breaths and then ask yourself, is this the truth? Is my response my ego, or is this love? Really ask yourself those questions. Change your breath, change your emotion. All right. Your breathing is tied to your emotions. Don't cut off your oxygen. And I know sometimes you get excited in conversation and you talk really fast and you run out of air and you're gasping for air. Stop. Slow down. What's the rush? Breathe from your belly. It's so simple. Just start practicing this. If you feel stressed, if you feel worried, just start breathing. Change your breath, change your emotions. Number 8, don't try to prove others wrong. Don't try to prove other people wrong. When you give this up, when you stop going through life needing to prove other people wrong and dominate people and compete with other people, you live so much more happy. You don't need to prove other people wrong. You don't need to make others look bad just so you can gain power over them and be superior. Why? What's the point? That's only feeding your ego. When you transcend beyond needing to prove other people wrong, that is a beautiful thing. You stop arguing with people because you know that arguments, who's winning? No one's really winning. Start developing the words, yeah, you're right. And watch how your relationships change, because people, they want to engage. They want to feed their ego. But when you don't feed someone else's ego, you also don't feed your ego, right? So learn to not engage with people. Learn to not argue, because what are you proving? That you have a bigger ego, that you're smarter, that you can dominate them in a conversation? What good does that do for the world? Because collectively, we are all one. So when you prove someone else wrong, what good does that do for the world? Nothing. You're only actually hurting yourself, because energetically, we're all connected, right? So you're only really proving yourself wrong because everyone else is just a mirror of you, a reflection of you. So good job. You just won an argument against yourself. Number 9, the last thing on here, which I believe is one of the most important out of all of them. Do things that you love every single day. That's a tough one for a lot of people, because they're so focused on things outside of themselves that they spend very little time doing things that they actually love. So I'm going to challenge you and ask you, when is the last time that you did something that you love? When is the last time you truly did something that you really love? Because I hope it was recently. And if it wasn't, my question is, why not? Because if you're going to a job and you're burning yourself out and you're doing everything for all your friends and your kids or your family members, but you're not doing anything for yourself, how can you possibly make the world a better place? You're going to burn yourself out. And I had to learn this myself, because I really wanted to help people, but I was burning myself out. Until I learned that I needed to do things that I love and receive love through that, that was a big shift for me. Do things that you love every single day. Because if you don't start doing things you love right now, and you can't find joy in this moment, do you think you're ever going to find it in the future? Probably not. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. If this episode brought you value, feel free to share it with someone that you love. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss any future content. Thank you so much. I love you. And as always, stay grounded, stay connected, and stay loving. Thank you.